In a small town in America, a huge storm was hitting, causing people everywhere to evacuate quickly. Only a few people remained in the town. That night, a boy named Timmy walked into the bar with a worried face. He asked to buy a few cases of beer for his father. At first, everything seemed normal. However, the owner of the bar suddenly noticed the boy's fear. When she asked, Timmy said that he didn't want to go home and didn't want to stay with his father any longer. Realizing that this could be a case of abuse, the owner of the bar asked two old policemen nearby to go to Timmy's house to investigate the matter. The boy was scared and stopped them. However, the two policemen still insisted on helping him. They also reassured him and said that they had guns. Nothing would happen. After they left, the owner of the bar came to ask Timmy what happened at home. After a while, the boy finally began to reveal the horrifying truth about his father. A year before that, Timmy's mother had died of cancer. His father, so sad after his mother's death, began to fall into alcoholism. His father didn't go to work and stayed home drinking beer all day. He even lost his job. He lived on welfare. Although he promised to change, he drank more and more. Even Timmy couldn't stop him. One day while drinking beer, Timmy's father suddenly felt nauseous. Timmy's father threw up a strange mucus from his mouth. The next morning, when Timmy walked out to the living room, he found his father lying on the floor. Next to his father was a half-drunk beer can. When Timmy picked it up, he found a sticky mucus underneath the can. It smelled like death. Things got worse and worse in the days that followed. Timmy's father was no longer able to leave the house. He just sat on the sofa all day. His face also began to have strange black scales. Timmy discovered that his father was very afraid of sunlight and often hid in dark places. But that was not all. After drinking too much beer, Timmy's father gradually turned into something extremely strange. His whole body was covered in a layer of mucus. Timmy wanted to call for help but was stopped by his father. Timmy's father said that he felt very comfortable. He also wanted Timmy to bring back as much food as possible. At this time, two old policemen arrived at Timmy's house. They felt strange because the house had no electricity at all. The furniture inside was extremely messy. When they arrived at the kitchen, they were horrified to see a lot of eaten animals. It turned out that Timmy was the one who caught the wild animals for his father to eat. But that was still not enough. Timmy's father wanted to eat more. Timmy loved his father so much that he lured the townspeople to his house, making them his sick father's dinner. At this point, everything was clear, and the restaurant owner was shocked. It turned out that it was all just a show to lure the two policemen to Timmy's house. They were so scared that they wanted to run away, but Timmy's father suddenly appeared behind them. He had now turned into a giant, terrifying monster. The policemen shot him repeatedly in the stomach, but the police did not injure him even a little. Timmy's father then rushed over and pressed the policeman down and began to eat him. The policeman tried to call for help, but the other policeman just trembled and ran away. After eating the policeman, the monster began to transform. Its body split into two, becoming two separate individuals. The remaining policeman quickly ran back to the shop and asked them to leave town immediately. Because of the storm, no one could help them at the moment. The monster then suddenly appeared and rushed towards them, terrifying them all. The second story, the Dollhouse. The main character in this story is a little girl named Evie. She loves playing with dolls. Her parents even bought her a dollhouse. Evie often spent all day just looking at the dollhouse. She also put beautiful dolls in it and considered them as family members. The story begins one day when Evie came home from school and went upstairs to look at her dollhouse. She discovered something strange. A scary doll head appeared out of nowhere in the living room. The family members also changed their positions compared to the last time Evie saw them. Their faces showed fear of something. She looked around the house. When Evie returned, she was startled to find the head lying on the floor, even though she had not touched it. Evie tried to touch the doll's head and found that its blood was completely real. Evie thought it was just her imagination, but when she got home that night, Evie ran straight to her room. There, she discovered that the dolls' positions had changed again. They were hiding in the corners of the room, seemingly afraid of something. Evie looked into the bedroom and saw that the head had been on the bed for a while. She was so frightened that she ran to bed and covered herself with the blanket, not daring to look at that house again. The next morning, Evie asked her mother to take her to the doll shop to buy a police doll to put in the house. Evie hoped that it would help keep the family safe. At night, Evie went to check her room and saw that the police doll had moved again. It was holding a gun in its hand and seemed to be looking for something. At this time, Evie's father went to her room to say good night. Evie pretended that nothing had happened. After saying goodbye to her father, she went back to observe the house. This time, Evie was horrified to see that the police doll had been attacked by something, causing its head to be severed from its neck. Meanwhile, the scary head was lying inside the bathroom. Because she did not want the family members to be murdered, the next day, Evie went to the toy store again to ask for a doll that could ward off evil spirits. The store owner thought she was just joking, so he introduced a Native American doll. He also said that it was immune to evil spells. Evie did not think twice and bought the doll to put in the toy house, hoping that it would protect her small family. That night, her parents watched TV, but Evie was so absorbed in her toy house that she couldn't concentrate on the movie they were watching. Late at night, when the whole family was fast asleep on the couch, she sneaked back to her room and ran to the house to observe. At this moment, a horrifying scene appeared before her eyes. The Native American doll had been attacked by something, causing its limbs and head to be missing from its body. Before Evie could do anything, she heard her mother downstairs. She quickly ran back to bed. Luckily, Evie's mother didn't notice anything unusual. When her mother left, Evie gently turned back to check on the members of the toy house. At this time, Evie discovered that both the father and mother had been killed. Their heads had long since been severed from their necks. Only the son remained. Evie looked around worriedly and was startled to see that he had also been killed. The scary head replaced the boy's head. Evie was scared and threw the doll outside, then ran back to bed. After a while, Evie didn't see anything unusual. She slowly leaned her head under the bed to find the head. Evie opened it and was horrified to see that it had grown big, with a scary face staring at her. Evie immediately threw the head back into the house and locked it tightly, not daring to open it. The next day, Evie asked her parents to sell the toy house to someone else. Although both of them felt that their daughter was strange, they still followed her words. The house was later sold to a middle-aged woman. No one knew that the scary head was still in the house, and its target was not just the dolls. The third story, the finger. One day on the way home, Clark found a strange finger lying under the pavement. It was not a human hand, nor did it resemble any animal he had ever seen before. Clark brought it home and searched online, but he couldn't find any results. He was sitting when he accidentally knocked over a beer bottle. The water in the bottle then began to be absorbed by the finger. Clark was extremely surprised when he saw it. He looked at it and put it in the refrigerator, waiting to see what it would grow into. The next day, Clark opened the refrigerator to check, but the finger was nowhere to be found. He hurriedly went around to look for it and found it lying on the floor. Strangely, the finger had grown a new branch. It was as if it were a growing creature. A few days later, from a normal finger, it had now transformed into a terrifying arm that looked unlike any creature on Earth. Clark was very excited about his discovery. He then put the arm in the freezer, hoping that it would continue to grow. 3 days later, Clark went to check on his arm, but found that it had disappeared without a trace. That night, while he was sleeping, he was awakened by a strange noise. He went to the freezer and opened it to see a terrifying creature inside. It was the thing that had grown from the mysterious finger. Clark discovered a human heart nearby. It seemed that this monster had come out to hunt people to eat. Before he could get rid of the evidence, there was a knock on the door. It turned out to be the local police. They announced that Clark's ex-wife had just passed away. She had been brutally murdered, and the murderer had not yet been caught. Clark immediately thought of that monster after hearing it. He had long held a grudge against his ex-wife and her 2 children. Could it be that the monster knew who Clark's enemies were and went to find and kill them? While Clark was trying to get rid of the evidence, the monster suddenly woke up and walked around the house. He was extremely scared when he saw it and thought it would rush to kill him. However, the monster only approached and made a few sounds to get acquainted. Clark felt that the monster considered him as its mother, so in the following days, he secretly raised the monster in his house. He even considered it a family member. One day, Clark was walking on the road and accidentally hit a moving car. The driver in the car then got out and cursed at him for not looking at the road. After the monster found out, it went out and killed the driver, then brought part of his body back to give to Clark. The story did not stop there. Knowing that Clark was often called by the company to collect debts, the monster came and killed the female employee there. Then it brought her tongue back to Clark. The number of victims increased. He only knew how to destroy the evidence that the monster brought back. However, when the victims were all related to Clark, so he was quickly suspected by the police. They came to find him and found bloodstains on Clark's shirt. He said it was just ketchup, and then he quickly closed the door. He continued to destroy the 2 heads that the monster had just brought back. Not long after, the police car surrounded the house. Clark was then quickly arrested and sent to a mental hospital. He was suspected of being a serial killer, who had committed many horrible crimes. Clack still believed he was innocent, all because of the monster. In your opinion, was the killer really the monster, or was Clack a psychopath who imagined everything from the beginning? The fourth story of the Treehouse. Set on the night of Halloween every year, a group of 5 young people dressed up in costumes from horror movies. Then they went to each house in town, knocked on the door, and asked for candy. The strange thing was that when they saw the group of friends in front of the house, everyone seemed scared and didn't want to have anything to do with them. The group of young people didn't care, so they took all the candy from the homeowner and quickly left. They went to a woman's house and were warmly welcomed by her baking. However, the woman's face looked resigned. Her husband later came home and saw the group of young people, was very angry, and chased them all away. He also said that they were a bunch of vandals who had ruined his family. The group then went to their old base, a treehouse. This was where they often met and played. However, after a fire, the house burned down and disappeared. Everyone looked regretful. To break the atmosphere, the group went to a house in town to ask for candy. The woman sitting in the house looked scared when she saw the children. She even pointed a gun at them and threatened them all to leave. However, the leader of the group was not afraid and even challenged her to chop grass. The group demanded that the woman hand over her son. The woman finally gave up and did not dare to fight back. A moment later, her son appeared and tried to attack the group, but he was hit in the face. The group then dragged the boy outside. Despite his screams for help, the mother could only stand and watch. She wrote that this was the only way to stop the group. The group then brought the boy to the treehouse, tied him up, and started to set him on fire. A child in the group took off his headscarf to reveal a scary skeleton inside. At this point, everything became clear. This group of 5 young people were all wandering ghosts. Before, when they were alive, they often went to the treehouse to have fun together. However, on Halloween night, the group was surrounded by a group of drunken young men. They locked the door and set fire to the treehouse, causing all 5 people to die tragically. The group thus turned into ghosts. Every year on Halloween, they would go find one of the bullies and kill them to avenge the dead of the past. After many years passed, the leader of the bullies was the last one. He cried loudly and begged, but no one could help him. In the end, he was burned to ashes under the old treehouse. After all the grudges were resolved, the 5 people could finally rest in peace. They entered the cemetery in town and gradually disappeared. Story 5. The Mysterious Suitcase. The character in this story is Timmy, a student who just got off a plane to visit his family. He stood waiting in the baggage claim area. He waited for a long time but could not find his suitcase. He was about to ask the airport staff when he suddenly saw his suitcase appear. Timmy hurriedly brought it home and did not know that inside was something extremely strange. The main reason Timmy came home this time was to ask his parents for money. He had just broken up with his girlfriend. The reason was because Timmy did not have money to buy her luxury items. Although he begged to come back, his girlfriend still refused. When he got home, Timmy found that his parents were both out. While he did not know what to do, he suddenly heard someone's voice coming from inside the suitcase. Timmy opened it and found a strange man inside. The man's body was in a small suitcase. Timmy panicked and wanted to call the police, but the man stopped him. He said that he was wanted. It would be bad if he showed up at the police station. Timmy then tried to drag the man's body out. However, as soon as Timmy touched the man's legs, the man screamed in pain. A gold coin suddenly flew out of his mouth. Timmy didn't understand what was happening. The man said that whenever he felt pain, a lot of gold coins would automatically fly out of his mouth. That was also the reason why he was wanted by the organization. The next day, Timmy tried to bring the gold coin to the antique shop. The owner was very excited when he discovered that it was a very valuable ancient coin. He even paid Timmy $300. Timmy was surprised when he heard it. Timmy then told his best friend about it. Timmy's best friend didn't seem to believe it. Timmy saw that and led his best friend home. Timmy's girlfriend also came over to leave some things. So the 3 of them then entered the room and admired the man in the suitcase. Timmy grabbed the man's legs, causing him to scream and drop a lot of gold coins. Timmy's best friend saw it and suddenly had an idea. Then Timmy's best friend threw the suitcase down the stairs. Inside, a lot of gold coins fell out. They were blinded by greed. The 3 of them then used every way to torture the man, causing him to vomit thousands of gold coins. The amount of money they earned increased day by day. Timmy's girlfriend also happily returned to him. However, Timmy did not know that she was secretly seeing his best friend behind his back. One day, Timmy realized that the man could not take it anymore. If they continued to torture him, he might die. Timmy wanted to stop, but the other two did not agree, so the argument started. Timmy's girlfriend suddenly used a hammer to hit Timmy's head, causing him to lose blood and fall unconscious to the floor. The two then prepared to continue torturing the man, but he suddenly laughed loudly, his eyes suddenly glowing. Before they could understand what was happening, a puff of smoke suddenly rose from the suitcase. The man's true form was revealed as a demon of greed. It thanked them for freeing it. Then it threw two suitcases in their faces. A scream echoed throughout the house. Timmy woke up the next day to find himself in the hospital. Beside him was a bouquet of flowers, with a letter saying that if he ever had trouble, come find me. Timmy realized that he survived because he had overcome his greed at the last minute. He wanted to protect the man, while his best friend and his girlfriend were not so lucky. They were stuffed into two suitcases by the man and put on a conveyor belt and taken away while both of them screamed helplessly. Story 6. The Skeleton Scarecrow. The character in this story is Harold, a gentle and shy boy. Harold was often bullied by his cousin Billy. Billy beat and cursed Harold badly. Harold didn't want to go home, so he just sat alone by the river, all day fishing. You have a kind best friend in the same class. Knowing that Harold was often beaten, his close friend came to comfort him. This friend also shared some of his candy with Harold. This comforted Harold somewhat. Harold thought that he could escape from Billy's violence, but a moment later, Billy came to the place where Harold was hiding. Billy rushed to beat and curse Harold. Billy's face showed great pleasure. Harold was scared, so he threw rocks at Billy and then ran straight into the forest. Billy was angry and chased Harold. Harold didn't think and ran deep into the forest. By the time Harold realized it, it was already dark. Harold found himself standing in front of a large farm. Entering, Harold saw a scarecrow with a scary face. Its body was made of large bones. In the middle of its chest was a piece of cloth shaped like a heart. A stick was pierced through it. At this moment, Harold heard Billy approaching. Harold was scared, so he snatched the stick from the scarecrow's chest and ran straight into a nearby house. As soon as Harold stepped inside, the door suddenly shook violently. Harold thought Billy was outside, so he immediately begged Billy to spare him. Harold looked up at the glass above and was surprised to see a tall head. At this time, Billy's voice echoed outside. Harold looked out the window and saw Billy looking for him. Under the crack in the door, tree roots began to creep in. The door then slowly opened. Harold was scared and ran upstairs. Harold had just reached the stairs when the floor suddenly collapsed, causing him to fall into the basement. Harold looked up and was horrified to see the scarecrow. It was moving and searching for Harold. Harold walked around the basement and found a man's body that was badly decomposed. There was a letter left near the corpse. After Harold read it, he began to understand everything. It turned out that the man was the owner of the farm. His name was Jandon. After his wife died of a serious illness, Jandon lived alone in the middle of his large farm. Because he could not bear the loneliness, Jandon created a special scarecrow and considered it his friend. Jandon used animal bones to make the scarecrow's body. He placed a piece of cloth in the shape of his deceased wife's heart on its chest. However, Jandon did not know that he had accidentally brought the scarecrow to life. When he first saw it move, he was extremely scared. However, as the days passed and saw that the scarecrow did not cause any harm, Jandon was happy to befriend it. The story began one day. A little girl got lost in the farm. The girl passed by the scarecrow. Jandon was farming nearby and suddenly heard the girl's scream. Jandon approached and was horrified to see that the scarecrow had killed the girl. It did not want strangers to enter Jandon's farm. Jandon knew that he had accidentally killed an innocent life and was extremely remorseful. Jandon then stabbed the scarecrow in the heart with a stick. Jandon also chose to go see his deceased wife. Many years passed. The scarecrow was still there. It was motionless until Harold accidentally pulled the stick out of its heart, causing it to revive. Harold was so scared after knowing everything that he tried to run away from home. However, the scarecrow caught up with him. It used tree roots to wrap around Harold's legs and slowly walked towards him. He thought that it would kill him, but the scarecrow suddenly noticed the stick in Harold's hand. It thought that Harold was its master, so it bowed its head to the ground. Harold knew that he had just gained a new and powerful disciple, so he came up with a plan for revenge. Then Harold went home. Taking advantage of the time when Billy was sleeping, Harold tied him to the bed. When Billy woke up, the scarecrow killed him horribly. A worthy end for someone who kidnapped others. Story 7. In the elevator of a corporate building, the female director Jessica was summoning her two subordinates. She announced that from today, one of them would be promoted to sales manager. The black girl named Julie was very confident that she would be the chosen one, but in the end, the director chose the guy next to her. He was very happy and ran out to call his wife. Julie felt extremely disappointed. Although they had known each other before, Jessica did not favor Julie. Despite Jessica's attempts to explain and comfort her, Julie was still very angry, disrespecting her and even cursing her. Jessica tried tried to endure it and said nothing. Seeing this, Julie became even more aggressive. Julie said that she knew the secrets of this company. If she did not get promoted, she would reveal everything to the press and the police. Jessica was extremely angry when she heard this, so Jessica immediately tried to stop Julie. While the two were fighting, Jessica accidentally pushed Julie into a nearby table. The strong impact caused a piece of glass to pierce Julie's head and she died on the spot. Jessica was extremely panicked when she saw it and did not know what to do. At this time, the employees of the company were coming to attend the upcoming party. Jessica pretended that she was busy and refused. Then Jessica secretly put Julie's body on a chair, intending to take it somewhere else to get rid of it and create false evidence. Jessica didn't want her to be arrested, just because of an accident. Jessica was about to reach the elevator when she suddenly bumped into the employee from earlier. Jessica panicked and pushed the body into a nearby room. Then Jessica pretended to be calm, as if nothing had happened. When the employee left, Jessica returned to the room and was surprised to see Julie's body staring at her. Although she was very scared, Jessica still continued with her plan to get rid of the body because she didn't want to go to jail. Then Jessica brought Julie's body into the elevator and prepared to go down to the underground parking lot. The elevator suddenly malfunctioned, causing it to shake violently. Julie's body suddenly flew straight at Jessica. Jessica was so scared that she fainted. When she woke up, Jessica discovered that the elevator had stopped working. Jessica tried to press the emergency button, but it didn't respond. The phone had no signal, so Jessica couldn't find anyone else to hold her. After that, Jessica had to find a way to escape by herself. Jessica used a chair as a springboard, trying to pry open the elevator door. However, when Jessica opened it, the chair suddenly moved, causing her to slip and fall to the ground. When she opened her eyes, Jessica was startled to find Julie's corpse staring at her. Julie's eyes were closed just now, but now they were wide open. Before Jessica could do anything, the elevator lights suddenly turned off. Jessica heard the rescue team's voice on the speaker nearby. They said that there had just been a big earthquake in the city, and they couldn't come to save her right now. Jessica had no choice but to sit and wait. Jessica reassured herself that Julie was dead. Julie couldn't do anything to her anymore. A day passed, and there was still no news about the rescue team. Jessica was now in a state of exhaustion and despair. In front of Jessica was the corpse staring at her, making her extremely scared. Jessica felt like Julie was not dead yet. Julie's corpse seemed to be moving and slowly getting closer to Jessica. When Jessica just got closer to the corpse, suddenly a hand appeared from somewhere and grabbed Jessica's neck, making her extremely scared. Unable to bear it anymore, Jessica decided to break the elevator door to escape. After a while of trying, the door finally opened a little enough for people to get out. However, when Jessica had just climbed halfway, Julie's corpse suddenly stood up and rushed to grab her head. At this moment, the elevator suddenly started working again. Jessica tried to struggle and scream, but no one could save her at this time. Jessica's head was then cut in half by the elevator. When the security guard opened the door to check, they saw a horrifying scene. Julie's corpse was holding Jessica's head in her hand, and her face showed great interest. Story 8. The Murder House. The story took place 80 years ago at a famous motel in America. The owner of this place was a woman named Mary. It was rumored that she was a serial killer. She killed many victims when they accidentally rented a room here. Mary later died in a mental hospital. After more than 80 years, her descendants were Army and Jack. They inherited Mary's old house, so they renovated it and opened it for rent. They also advertised that this was the house of the most notorious female murderer in America. However, despite the efforts of the two siblings, the number of customers coming to their motel gradually decreased. Meanwhile, the competitors nearby were full of people booking rooms. They were about to give up when Army discovered a famous female streamer online who specializes in reviewing famous tourist destinations. She immediately came up with a plan to invite this female streamer to her motel to visit, hoping to increase the number of guests. So the next day, the female streamer named Alita agreed to accept the invitation. When Alita knew that she had come to the murder house, she was very excited. She hoped to bring interesting experiences. She also turned on her phone to live stream for her fans to watch. Army and Jack then took Alita into the house and introduced her to the special architecture here. Each house was built with a sturdy frame so that the screams of the victims could not be heard outside. In particular, there were scary traps here, ready to kill anyone who did not activate it. Alita expressed doubt that Mary was a murderer, as many people people rumored, because so far the police have not found any murderers in her house. This made Army extremely angry and said that she would prove that her grandmother was a real murderer. That night, Alita went online and shared information about the house. She felt disappointed because it was not as scary as rumored. This caused many people to turn away. The number of guests booked at the motel decreased even more than before. Army angrily unplugged the Wi-Fi. The next morning, Army received feedback from Alita. Army only said that the motel's Wi-Fi was broken and was waiting for a repairman. Alita felt that what she said yesterday was a bit too much, so she decided to make up for her mistake. Alita wanted to explore every corner of this house to see if there had really been any murders. Army and Jack quickly agreed. Thanks to her specialized equipment, Alita discovered some blood stains on the floor. However, when she opened it, there were only normal bottles of wine underneath. Then, Alita continued to check the wall. This time, she discovered another secret room. Alita thought there would be something scary inside, but it was just a sewing machine that was completely harmless. At this point, Alita was even more certain that Mary was just a normal woman, not a scary murderer like the rumors said. Then Alita went into the room to prepare to leave. When Alita opened the wardrobe, she suddenly discovered a secret room. Inside was a tunnel that stretched throughout the house. Then Alita stood behind the wall and heard the conversation between the two sisters, Army and Jack. They were worried that their business would decline if the truth about this house was revealed. So Army decided that tonight they would both pretend to be ghosts and scare Alita into thinking that this house was haunted. They talked without knowing that Alita was hiding behind and heard everything. So Alita went back to her room and pretended to sleep. When Army just walked in and tried to scare her, Alita sprayed pepper spray in her face. Alita was delighted to have exposed their plan. Alita even took out her phone to film Army's panicked face despite her request to stop. However, Alita didn't care and instead teased her by saying that I would reveal the truth about this house to all my fans. In a fit of anger and loss of control, Army swung her axe and slashed Alita in the chest. Alita was scared and ran outside. At this time, Alita discovered the Wi-Fi line. Alita immediately reconnected and went on a live stream to call for help from her fans. However, Army immediately appeared behind her and continued to swing at Alita. Alita panicked and ran down the stairs, but unfortunately tripped over a step and fell to the ground. Army angrily said that if Mary wasn't the murderer, she would have done it herself. After saying that, Army rushed to kill Alita. At this time, Alita's phone screen recorded the whole incident. Alita's fans thought that this was a prepared play. They were extremely excited because of its authenticity. The number of people booking rooms also skyrocketed. Army looked extremely happy. However, Jack suddenly got greedy for money and suddenly rushed to strangle his sister. He wanted to be the only one to enjoy this wealth. Army struggled to cry for help, but she quickly died afterwards. A year later, the murder house was now widely known. The number of guests every day broke the glass of the room. Jack quickly became a rich boss. However, one day while counting money, Jack accidentally activated a trap that caused the floor under his feet to open. Jack fell down below. Here he was horrified to discover many human skeletons. It turned out that Mary was actually a murderer. She hid the victims in this secret basement so that no one would know. The basement door then closed, locking the greedy Jack and the victims below forever. Story number 9. The character in this episode is Hayden, a middle-aged man who works as a pest exterminator. Whether it's a beak or a centipede, as long as he does it, he will definitely get rid of it successfully. That day, Hayden had an appointment to go to a woman's house. She was a psychologist who was treating one of her patients. Hayden didn't care and loudly demanded her payment. This made the woman extremely upset. She swore she would never hire Hayden again. When he heard this, he was very angry. Taking advantage of the time when the woman was not home, he sneaked into the back door of her house and filled it with cockroaches. Hayden was delighted with his trick. The cockroaches will breed in the house, and the customers will come to him again and again. The story begins one day, when Hayden has an appointment to meet a customer at an abandoned factory. This guy introduces himself as George, the owner of this factory. He is currently in dire need of dismantling and re-establishing this area. However, there is one obstacle. Homeless people have come to live and stay inside the factories. Although he has called the authorities many times, they still cannot do anything. George has a huge headache, so he comes up with a plan to ask Hayden to help him kill all these homeless people. They are just like destructive insects. Hearing this, Hayden immediately refuses. He does not want to become a cold-blooded killer like that. Hayden is about to leave when suddenly George takes out a suitcase full of money and says that it will all be yours if you agree to help me with this. Greed arose. Hayden could no longer keep his cool and decided to accept. So that night, while the homeless people were sleeping, Hayden sneaked inside, intending to put poison in their soup pot. At this time, a man suddenly appeared behind him. Hayden was startled and dropped the bottle of medicine into the pot. The man then continuously attacked with a knife. In a panic, Hayden threw a bottle of medicine into the man's mouth, causing him to continuously convulse, his mouth full of foam. Hayden took advantage of that moment to run home. Knowing that he had killed someone, Hayden was extremely worried. Hayden was lying in bed when he suddenly felt something crawling under his feet. Hayden turned his head to look. Suddenly a giant rat appeared from somewhere and bit his hand. Hayden was in great pain. His hand had been bitten to pieces by the rat. Just then, he suddenly woke up. It turned out to be just a nightmare. The next morning, Hayden drove to the abandoned factory and found a large number of police officers surrounding it. They brought out the bodies of homeless people. All of them had eaten the poisonous soup. Knowing that the mission was completed, Hayden immediately called a man named George to ask for his payment. However, Hayden called and called, but no one answered. The next day, while Hayden was working as usual, a giant mosquito suddenly flew out of nowhere and stabbed its proboscis into his chest and began to suck his blood. Hayden was extremely scared. Hayden looked back and it had disappeared. The hallucinations continued to appear with increasing frequency. It haunted Hayden, making him unable to sleep. Many days later, Hayden suffered from severe hypothermia due to insomnia. Even in the car, he saw giant insects. A spider swooped down and sprayed poison on Hayden's face, causing his face to be horribly deformed. After that, Hayden fell to the ground unconscious. When Hayden woke up, he found himself in the room of the woman from the day before. She was a psychologist. Hayden wanted advice from the woman, so he told her everything he had done in the past few days. He felt remorseful and wanted to be forgiven. The woman approached him and told him that I hope you get some sleep. He then slowly fell asleep. A moment later, when he woke up, Hayden felt something strange. The surrounding objects became large, while he became as small as an insect. At this time, the woman walked in. Hayden called out to the woman loudly, but the woman didn't seem to hear. She thought Hayden was an insect and then held the book and continuously hit him. She thought Hayden was a person who had been beaten to death, his body flattened like the insects he killed every day. What a worthy ending for a greedy man. The movie has ended here. Which story impressed you more? Please leave a comment below. See you in the next videos.